the most powerful Republican in the country, the man who is second in line to the presidency as I speak to you tonight, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, made a shocking announcement today about the release of raw footage from inside the Capitol on January 6th.
House Republicans trust the American people to draw their own conclusions. They should not be dictated by some narrative and accept that as fact. So they can review the tapes themselves. We're going through a methodical process of releasing them as quickly as we can. As you know, we have to blur some of the faces of persons who participated in the events of that day because we don't want them to be retaliated against and to be charged by the DOJ and to have other concerns and problems.
You get all that? A lot to unpack here. First, to be clear, when Johnson says Republicans trust the American people to draw their own conclusions and not just be spoon-fed a narrative about January 6th, he is quite explicitly feeding the conspiracy theories, right? The people that want this footage released by House Republicans want it released because they want to find the hidden federal agents. So the intended audience understands that message loud and clear. But even more unbelievable is the open admission in front of cameras, said out loud to the nation, that House Republicans, the senior House Republican, is actively running cover for criminal insurrectionists. People who, in full view of the public, with no expectation of privacy in the nation's capital, stormed said Capitol, in some cases assaulting police officers, and attempted a violent coup. But we can't show their faces because the fuzz might get them.
It's Ken Harbaugh with Against All Enemies on the MeidasTouch Network. There has been a ton of media coverage about Speaker Johnson's extraordinary comments regarding blurring the faces of insurrectionists. Chris Hayes and others have done a great job at calling out the blatant hypocrisy of a party that claims to support law and order but is now running cover for people who assaulted police officers. One aspect of this that is missing, though, is the effect this betrayal has had on those who defended the Capitol that day. I wanted to share part of my conversation with Aquilino Gonell, who was there on the front lines defending the Capitol and who was badly beaten by the rioters. He now feels, and rightly so, that Republicans like Mike Johnson have stabbed him in the back. My full interview with Sergeant Gonell will be out in a few weeks on January 6th, but I wanted to share this part now, especially because Sergeant Gonell discusses an issue I care deeply about: moral injury. He opens up about what it feels like to have risked one's life for people like Mike Johnson, who now mock that sacrifice. Here's part of our conversation. The full interview comes out soon. You talked about moral injury, and I think that is such an important concept for our viewers to understand. We've talked about it before on the show, but it's distinct from PTSD, and there's often an element of betrayal involved. Can you talk about how insidious that kind of moral injury is and what it feels like to have been essentially betrayed by the people you risked your lives for?
When I joined the military, I knew the danger of risking my life to protect many people in this country. When I raised my hand again to become a police officer, I did that again willingly as a police officer. And there are certain dangers that are inherent within the profession. I was willing to take it, and I did. And that's what I thought I was doing on January 6th. When I risked my life, I could have just as easily walked away from that door, that entrance, like many of the right-wing and conspiracy theorists say that, many officers did. I didn't. I stayed on my post. I stayed for 4 hours and a half, battling or more, the mob, both outside in the plaza on the west front and inside the tunnel. And then we stay over, checking and securing the building throughout the day. I got to the Capitol at 6:10 that day on January 6th. I didn't go home until January 7th at 4 a.m. to be back at the Capitol at 8 o'clock and do another 16, 18 hours, and did that for 3 days. When I risked my life, I wasn't thinking about who am I protecting, whether they're Democrat, Republican. independent, gay, straight, religious or non-religious. I was doing it because it was my sworn oath. It was my duty. I kept my oath. I did my job. I did what I was supposed to. I defended the Capitol. I defended our democracy. I defended my colleagues. I defended my wife's future, my kid's future, and my own. And even if that meant risking my life, I was willing to do that. You know, and now you have people that says nothing happened at the Capitol, or let me release this video, this clip, which selectively picks, 3 seconds or 3 minutes of quietness out of what? How many hours of fighting? Are you talking about the beginning or the end when people are being rushed out and people look like haven't done anything? But what about the fighting? When the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, releases those videos, I bet you he's not releasing the picture of him running away. I bet you he's not releasing the pictures or videos of him and his colleague being escorted by Capitol Police with the mob close by. That's so disingenuous. That's so disrespectful, and are desecrating the sacrifices the officers like we did on that day, and desecrating the sacrifices that of those officers who die as a result of January 6th.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I've got a quick break here, but I need a favor first. Shows like this depend on your support. Please, if you can spare 5 seconds, click the link to the podcast version of the show below and leave us a 5-star review. It really does help. Thanks.
Everything that we did in that day has been squandered by the right wing and the elected officials from the Republican side. And yet they go on TV and say, we support the police. How? How are you supporting the police if you're not even willing to do an investigation into what happened on January 6th? And many of the members, their own members, went to the White House, according to reports, to plan about that day. But yet you had Jim Jordan defying subpoenas and issuing subpoena, demanding records when he himself is a material witness of the event on January 6th. And there are others who were at the Capitol in that meeting with Mike Flynn, Rudy Giuliani, and a whole bunch of people that, they planned and coordinated some of these things. But they are the party of rule of law and order. Okay, I believe it. Sell me another bridge and I believe you. But I do speak about length about the moral injury. I risked my life for these individuals. I wish it would have been different. Kind of like 9/11. After 9/11, we all came together. We were resolute. We knew who attacked us, and we went after. The difference is, on January 6th, they knew who was responsible, and they chose to side with the person who sent them out to attack them, attack a branch of his own government. And Bin Laden was never found to be inside those planes, but we indicted him. And he paid a price for sending those people to blow up the planes inside the World Trade Center. I think we know who sent the mob to the Capitol. And I think we know who's responsible. You don't have to fly the plane in order for you to be the captain and the orchestrator of those plans. And we all know that. They know that. And yet that person is the one that they are supporting to become a nominee, to become a candidate, again, to do the job that he didn't want to do in the first place. I think, I don't know if we'll survive another January 6th. I don't know if we will survive another term, because the minute that he gets back in power, he will say that the last 4 years that he was in power didn't count, and therefore he need a mulligan, and he's going to try to do away with the term limits, kind of like what many authoritarian regimes overseas have done, like Xi Jinping, Putin, in Erdogan. All these people, they had do away with term limits just to remain in power. And I think, I hope people do realize that many people sacrifice, done many sacrifices to make this country great. It's not easy. I don't know. I don't understand why so many veterans and police officers do support this guy when he calls the veterans like myself, like any veterans, losers and suckers, and somebody who has not shown any respect for the bravery of being a soldier, the selflessness of being a soldier. He doesn't even want to see them injured or wounded, but yet that's the person that they want to be their champion. The person who's running on nothing else but January 6th in 2020 election. But they tell me and my colleagues to move on when their candidate is running just on that alone. 3 weeks ago, he calls them hostages. Hostages? Who am I then? The captor? The sequester? Sicario? The bad guy? We did our job. We kept our oath. And nobody else was authorized to be in the Capitol but the elected officials, the police, the media, and their staff. Nobody else on January 6th was authorized to be there. And it wasn't peaceful. Show the whole damn clip. All the videos, including the elected officials running for their lives. It wasn't peaceful. They got to go home. We didn't. We had to stay. We had to remain on post. There were violence. It was violence. And people need to understand that. And I hope that you are able to read my book, see the sacrifices that I had done for this country, for this nation. It's not just about January 6th. It's a story about sacrifices and bravery. And if you can, please also review it, share with your colleagues and friends. I think you will have a better understanding of where I'm coming from and the things that I had done for this great country. Thank you.